I'm gonna be reading Pride and Prejudice chapter 19. Let's start now. Yeah. The next day opened a new scene at Longbourn. Mr. Collins made his declaration in form, having resolved to do it without loss of time, as his leave of absence intended only to the following Saturday, and having no feelings of dependence to make it distraction to himself as at the moment. He set about it in a very ugly manner with all the observances which he supposed a regular part of the business. On finding Mrs. Bennet, Elizabeth, and one of the youngest girls together, soon after breakfast, he addressed the mother in these words: "May I hope, madam, for your interest with your fair daughter, Elizabeth, when I solicit for the honor of a private audience with her in the course of this morning." Before Elizabeth had time for anything but a blush of surprise, Mrs. Bennet instantly answered, "Oh dear, yes, certainly. I'm sure Lizzie will be very happy. I am sure she can have no objection. Come, Kitty, I want you upstairs." And gathering her work together, she was hastening away when Elizabeth called out, "Dear ma'am, do not go. I beg you not to go. Mr. Collins must excuse me. He can have nothing to say to me than anybody needs to hear. I am going away myself." "No, no, nonsense, Elizabeth. I desire you will stay where you are." And upon Elizabeth seeming really with vexed and embarrassed look about to escape, she added, "Lizzie, I insist upon your staying and hearing Mr. Collins." Elizabeth would not oppose such an injunction, and a moment's consideration making her also sensible that it would be the wisest to get over as soon as quietly as possible, she sat down and tried to conceal by incessant employment and feelings which were divided between distress and diversion. Mrs. Bennet and Kitty walked off, and as soon as they were gone, Mr. Collins began, "Believe me, my dear Elizabeth, that your modesty, so far from doing you any disservice, rather adds to your other perfections. You would have been less amiable in my eyes had there not been this little unwillingness. But allow me to assure you that I have your respectable mother's permission for this address. You can hardly doubt the purpose of my discourse. However, your natural delicacy may lead you to dissemble. My attentions have been too much to be mistaken. Almost as soon as I entered the house, I singled you out as the companion of my future life. But before I ran away with my feelings on the subject, perhaps it would be advisable for me to state my reason for marrying, and moreover for coming into Hertfordshire with the design of selecting a wife, as I certainly did. The idea of Mr. Collins, with all his solemn composure, being run away by his feelings, made Elizabeth so near laughing that she could not use the short pause he allowed in any attempt to stop him further than he continued. "My reasonings for marrying are first, that I think it arising for every gentleman in easy circumstances like myself to set the example of matrimony in his parents. Secondly, I am convinced it will add very, very greatly to my happiness. And thirdly, which perhaps I ought to have mentioned earlier, that it is the particular advice and recommendation of a very noble lady whom I have the honor of calling patroness. Twice has she condescended to give me her opinion on Acts 2 on this subject. It was but a very Saturday night before I left Hangsford between our pool at Quadrille, while Mrs. Jenkinson was arranging Miss DeBoer's food too, that she said, "Mr. Collins, you must marry. A gentleman like you must marry. Choose properly. Choose a gentlewoman for my sake and for your own. Let her be an active, useful sort of person, not brought up high, but able to make a small income, go a good way. This is my advice. Find such a woman as soon as you can. Bring her to Hanford, and I will advise her. Allow me by way to observe, my fair cousin, that I do not reckon the notice and kindness of Lady Catherine de Boer as among the least of the advantage in my power to offer. You will find her manners beyond anything I can describe, and your wit and vivacity, I think, must be acceptable to her, especially when tempered with silence and respect, which her rank would be inevitably excite. Thus much for my general intention in favor of matrimony. It remains to be told why my views were directed to Longbourn instead of my own neighborhood, where I assure you that there are many admirable women, young women, but the fact is that being as I am to inherit this estate after the death of your honored father, whom however may live many years longer, I cannot satisfy myself without resolving to choose a woman from among his daughters, that the loss to them must be as little as possible when the melancholy event takes place, which however I have already said may not be for several years. This has been my motive, my fair cousin, and I flatter myself it will not shrink me in your esteem. And now nothing remains for me but to assure you in the most animated language of violence of my affection to fortunate. I am perfectly indifferent, and I shall make no demands of that nature of your father. Since I am well aware that it could not be complained with, and that £1,000 in the 4%, which will not be yours till after your mother's decease, as is all that you may ever be entitled to. On that hand, therefore, I shall be uniformly silent, and you may assure yourself that no ungenerous reapproach shall ever pass my lips when we are married. It was absolutely necessary to attempt to interrupt him now. You are too hasty, sir, she cried. You forget that I have made no answer. Let me do it without further loss of time. Accept my thanks for the compliment you are paying me. I am very sensible of the honor of your proposals, but it is impossible for me to do otherwise than decline them. I am not now to learn, replied Mr. Collins with a formal wave of the hand. That is usual with young ladies to reject the address of a man whom they secretly mean to accept when he first applies for their favor, and that sometimes the refusal is repeated a second or even third time. I am therefore by no means discouraged by what you have just said, and shall hope to lead you to the altar ere long. Upon my word, sir, cried Elizabeth, your hope is rather an extraordinary one after my declaration. I do assure you that I am not one of those young ladies, if such young ladies there are, who are so daring as to risk their happiness on the chance of being asked a second time. I am perfectly serious in my refusal. You cannot make me happy, and I am convinced that I am the last woman in the world who would make you so. Nay, were your friend Lady Catherine to know me, I am persuaded she would find me in every respect ill qualified for the situation. Where it's certain that Lady Catherine would think so, said Mr. Collins very gravely, but I cannot imagine that her ladyship would at all disapprove of you, and you may be certain that when I have the honor of seeing her again, I shall speak in the highest terms of your modesty, economy, and other amiable qualifications. Indeed, Mr. Collins, all praise of me would be unnecessary. You must give me leave to judge for myself and pay me the compliment of believing what I said. I wish you very happy and very rich. By refusing your hands, do all in my power to prevent your being otherwise. In making me the offer, you must have certified the delicacy of your feelings with regards to my family, and may take possession of Longbourn Estate, however it falls, without any self-reproach. This matter may be considered, therefore, as finally settled. And rising as she thus spoke, she would have quitted the room had not Mr. Collins thus addressed her. When I do myself the honor of speaking to you next to this subject, I shall hope to receive a more favorable answer than you have now given me, though I am far from accusing you of cruelty at present, because I know it to be the established costume of your sex to reject a man on the first application, and perhaps you have even now said as much to encourage my suit as would be consistent with the true delicacy of female character. Really, Mr. Collins, cried Elizabeth with some warmth, you puzzle me exceedingly. If what I have heard said can appear to you in a form of encouragement, I know not how to express my refusal in such a way as may convince you of its being one. You must give me leave to flatter myself, my dear cousin, by your refusal of my addresses is merely words of course. My reasons for believing it are barely these, and it does not appear to me that my hand is unworthy of your acceptance, or that the establishment that I offer would be any other than highly desirable. My situation in life, my connection with the family of Debord, and my relationship to your own as circumstances highly in my favor, and you should take it into further consideration that in spite of your manifold attraction, it is by no means certain that another offer of marriage may ever be made you. Your portion is unhappily so small that it will be in all likelihood, unless the effects of your loveliness and amiable qualification. I must therefore conclude that you are not serious in your rejection of me, and I choose to attribute it to your wish of increasing my love by suspense, according to the usual process of elegant females. I do assure you, sir, that I have no pretension whatever to the kind of elegance which consists in tormenting a respectful man. I'd rather be paid the compliment of being believed sincere I thank you again for the honor you have done me in your proposals, but to accept them is absolutely impossible. My feelings in every respect forbid it. Can I speak plainer? Do not consider me now as an elegant female intending to plague you as a rational creature, speaking the truth from your heart, from her heart. You are uniformly charming, cried he with an air of awkward gallantry, and I'm persuaded, I'm persuaded that when sanctioned by the express authority of both your excellent parents, my proposals will not feel of being acceptable to such perseverance in wasteful self-deception. Elizabeth would make no reply, and immediately in silence withdrew, determined that if he persisted in considering her repeated refusal as flattering encouragement to apply, her father, whose negative might be uttered in such a manner as must be decisive, and whose behavior at least could not be mistaken for the affectation and courtesy of an elegant female. Okay, guys, I'm done. I'm gonna read this chapter tomorrow. Yeah, thank you, and I'm proud of myself for reading this. And thank you, and have a nice day. Bye bye. I'm proud of myself too. Very, very proud. I have to say it. Yeah, because I am. Bye bye.